All right, you guys, another Monday, another video, and I am stoked to show you a finished painting in Procreate and just kind of hang out, chat a little bit about my love for the color brown, and also talk a little bit about iterating and sort of like this ideating process that I learned in my graphic design degree. So if that sounds like something you'd like to take part in or you might enjoy, I'm Rory Fluent. Feel free to call me Rory. If you're new around here, hi, hello, how are you? Let me know in the comments down below. I like to create dope art content and hopefully curate a chill atmosphere. And if you're not new around here, what is up, my dudes? Let's get into this video. I'm pretty excited because I got one particular commenter. I'll probably put their little comment on the screen because it was a very nice, sweet comment with lots of feedback, very good feedback. Not that I don't welcome criticisms of any kind, but it's always really cool to interact with you guys and actually just like see what you guys are thinking. And one of the things that this person brought up was the fact that they wanted to see both my iterating process, or at least not see, but like have me talk about and show it a little bit. And then also to break down my brushes and what kinds of brushes I use on Procreate, which my hope is to do that in the next video. So like the next, I guess I should say, like Procreate video. Let me know if that sounds like something that more of you would enjoy. I'm probably going to do it no matter what, but you know, the feedback and interaction is always really nice. And yeah, so in this particular video, I kind of just wanted to show off. So I have this part actually completely not slowed down, I believe, or oh my god, not sped up, I believe. And you're just kind of seeing a little bit of me tweaking sketches. I'm sort of creating the frame of reference, working within like a square, though I do expand it to a rectangle and a couple of the ideas just to see if a different composition might play well with what I was thinking. And you can kind of just see I did a couple of them off screen, and I just drew these really awful squares, and I was just kind of filling the compositions with different ideas based off of this one particular reference, which was of a ram whose horn had literally like curled around itself to the point where it was going to puncture its eye. And I just like, I don't know. I thought that concept was really interesting. I just drew a bunch of rams, and I was like, you know, it might be really cool to take I don't know, the theme of what I was drawing in my last sketchbook page or spread video and make it a little painting. I've been having a lot of fun. I feel like it makes a lot of sense. I spend all this time learning a subject in my sketchbook, and then maybe I try and make a painting out of it. So yeah, just to break down what it is again that I'm doing, I draw these frames of references. I kind of keep in mind where I want the I guess I could say the piece to end and what I want to exist within the frame of reference and within the composition. And I'm just kind of throwing down these really like awful doodles, or I guess like awful to like artistic standards, I suppose. And you know, they're not really supposed to make sense. They're just getting ideas flowing, thinking, expanding my options. You know, I didn't just want to sit here and go, okay, well, what if the horn pokes its eye? You know, maybe I can interact with the composition and frame of reference in a more unique or interesting way. Not that I wasn't excited to do that, you know, it's not necessarily like I draw super up close and personal references, and like my subjects aren't really super like hyper detailed or anything like that. So I was like, that could be an interesting idea and a cool way to I guess try that out and see how I would do it. But at the same time, I just wanted to kind of push myself a little bit further and see if there were any other compositions or concepts that I liked better. In the end, every time I was like drawing one of these sketches, I kept just thinking, oh, it'd be so cool if like maybe one of the horns was like coming apart, or I don't know. I kind of wanted something else going on besides just the horn jabbing the eye, even though I did compositionally like that the best. And I was like a huge fan of the iris sort of like being punctured and leaking, and kind of just trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do and what I was most interested in doing. And in the end, I decided to go ahead and go for the sketch in the bottom left corner where there's like two of these ram dudes, and you can see a lot of this is me kind of staring and thinking and going, okay, what is it that I like about this sketch? A lot of an iterating process is taking a step back and assessing the choices that you're making and thinking about why you're making them and why they're working and why they're not working. And this is a really, really small example. When I was actually in my degree, I would fill like 4 or 5 9x12 pieces of paper front to back with different ideas. And then from there, what we would do is take one of these small thumbnails and we would iterate on it. And maybe we would fill one front to back or one just front of a 9x12 of, I don't know, if they're an inch long, then probably like a dozen or so more little thumbnails with the same concept and idea, but that's called iterating because I'm iterating on one idea. So ideating is creating multiple ideas, just getting shit out and, seeing where your mind takes you. And then iterating is when you take one of those specific ideas and you push that particular concept further. And there's not like a ton of that going on here. I wasn't being like super deep with it, and generally in design, the problems that you're solving require a lot more time and effort to think through and really sort of like question what it is that you're trying to create and why it needs to exist. That's one of the major differences, and I know I've mentioned this before, so I apologize if it's in, another video, but one of the major differences between creating art and designing is that in design, you have a problem that needs to be solved, and that problem is normally you are assessing it from a point of view where you are not trying to evoke an emotion, but you are trying to create something that has a message or purpose driven behind it that is then going to potentially be utilized in some way, where art is generally created. Sure, it can have a message, but it's generally simply created. Design is a lot more about solving a real world problem. And so you might have someone designing a chair, which is why ergonomics is a whole thing. And you might have someone just simply designing the way that a car looks, but design is also the way that the car moves and sounds, and the way that you as a person interact with the car and the upholstery and the way the buttons are placed, and the list goes on and on and on. But then design can really start to overlap with art when it comes to like poster design and web design, where you're sort of having these different artifacts and elements interacting with each other, and some of those can be purely artistic and purely illustrative, but then you have obviously a lot more going into a website, for example, when it comes to digitally and the way that a user is going to interact with the website. And you don't really have that with a painting. When someone approaches a painting, they're always going to approach it the same way, where when someone approaches, let's say, continuing with that analogy, a website, they are going to approach it from multiple different angles and in all kinds of different ways. And so as a designer, you're always looking at those different ways, and that's why iterating can be a whole thing, because you just constantly want to push yourself and make sure that you are creating the best possible solution for the problem that you are trying to solve. But here, currently in the video, all I'm trying to do is draw a couple rams and sort of figure out compositionally how I'd like these two little rams to interact with each other. If I was really going to push myself, I would have taken the concept of these two rams, a broken horn, and a punctured iris, and I would have probably continued to iterate on that and see if there were other ways within the composition that these two could have interacted. But I didn't really feel like doing that, nor did I have the time, so I kind of went with like a portrait style, and it was almost like these two rams were posing together, and I kind of liked that, and so I just went ahead and kept it. There were also kind of other things that I was looking at when I was in the sketch phase. Colors was one of them. I know that in previous videos I've kind of shown color blocking and how I mess around with color and experiment to make sure that I have enough color contrast in my pieces. But I went into this one with a very specific idea of my colors. I knew that I wanted to use brown. I love brown. I used a little bit of it in the sketchbook spread, and I wanted to continue to push that and sort of use those colors in this piece. And now that I'm looking back at this, it's kind of funny because I did use really similar colors to the sketchbook spread, which was not my original intention, honestly. I think I was going to stick predominantly with just brown, but like when I was fucking with the colors, I sort of subconsciously just fell back on the colors I just used in my sketchbook spread. So looking back at this now, it's funny to me because I definitely wasn't paying very much attention, and that ended up meaning that the colors, even though I was assessing and kind of messing around, and you can see on the sketch layer, if it ever flicks back on or if it doesn't at the beginning of the video, I was kind of just laying out colors and making sure that I was thinking about contrast and then grouping them together and seeing what I wanted and how they played together. And, you know, you can always kind of, I believe it's, let me think, analogous, that is next to each other, and you can always sort of like rely on those nice pairs. So green and blue always look so nice together, and especially if you have them in this nice sort of cool tone group like I do, and then a pop of that bright warm green just really stands out and continues to push that color contrast in a different way, because like obviously you have shades and tints, and that's more like value contrast, but then with the colors you don't want them to all blend together specifically. So I had this gorgeous pop of this very warm yellow green, and then this really pretty bright teal color that I really liked. And I just kind of, I don't know, part of it, like part of the color scheme kind of reminded me of like home decor. And I wasn't sure how I felt about that, but it was way too late by the time my brain made that connection to change anything about it. It was just like, and that's an example, I guess, a really good example of like in my degree and in design, we would be thoroughly sort of like nailing down these colors and allowing for no other connections other than like to this piece to be made. So I guess what I mean by that is if I'm choosing a color and it means something, and I do know what, you know, different colors mean to people and how they read, that should play into how and when I apply that color to my design. If your design is supposed to be joyous, you should not fill it with, you know, deep, dark colors unless the point is for the contrast of color to somehow like reinforce the message of, let's say this is a hypothetical poster that you're creating. Unless those colors and those dark colors are there for a specific purpose and are reading in that way, there is no reason for those colors to be a part of that printed piece, because colors have meaning and they read in certain ways. And so, you know, on top of like color interactions, color theory, and the way that these colors just sort of look with nothing further, they also mean something. And when you're applying them to a design, that really has to be taken into account because every piece of your design matters. Now, that isn't to say that colors don't have moods that are also applied to paintings and illustrations, because illustration can be a facet of design. So it all gets kind of muddled and weird. And it was really funny because I was already sort of like a little bit of, I wouldn't have called myself an illustrator, but I did sketch and draw, and I was getting into painting for a few years before I went to get my degree in design. And so that played a large role in the kind of stuff that I created. And one of the biggest things that I tried to do throughout my degree was push myself to not rely on illustrations because I wanted to go above and beyond. And it was really fun, though, when I did get an illustration professor in one of my design classes. So it wasn't an illustration class, it was an illustration professor run by a professor running a design class. There we go. And that was really exciting because where I excelled and where I was just really enthralled with the entire program was when I could merge illustration with design, which wasn't really something that was done. For whatever reason, they were kept very separate. And so it was just a lot of fun to me to find ways to create illustrations and implement illustrative elements into very nicely and professionally designed work. You can think, I guess, as a good example, like a lot of product packaging has illustration. If you go onto like Pinterest and look up product packaging, there's so many unique and like just absolutely lovely interactive and user-friendly package designs that are fully illustrative. And I might even put a couple examples up just to kind of show that, because it's like, it gets me so excited and I would love to be able to create, I don't know, any kind of packaging product. I feel like it would be so much fun, and I'd love to be able to get there and to get to a point where I can experiment with design again, because at the moment I have a couple other passions that I am obviously putting my time into, and currently that is working at a dog rescue, which I made a whole video about, and I'm actually, next week's sketchbook spread video is going to be about one of those dogs, so I'm pretty excited to share that. Returning to the video for a moment, you can see that I'm working in different layers. I sort of have a background layer, which I kept really simple. It's been a while since I've kind of just done a splotchy background, so I was having a lot of fun with that, just sort of creating really loose blobs, I guess reminiscent of sort of like trees or like a forest in the background, but really not really. It's just, it's just sort of like these nice blobs. They're probably outside somewhere, so they can be whatever you want them to be. And then the actual rams themselves, you can see I made a layer for the one that's in front of the other, and then obviously a layer for like the background sheep, I believe is what I called it. And I'm just kind of taking the colors and figuring out how I want to lay them and where I want them to go and how I want them to integrate together, which again, if I was really being intense about this iterative process, I would have done, I don't know, a handful of color comps and shrunk them down and really assessed them and figured out the best colors for this piece. But I was just having a lot of fun, and like I said, I was subconsciously influenced by the sketchbook spread below this, below my iPad, and so the colors turned into what they are. But that's okay. I'm kind of just loosely talking about and explaining that process for anybody who was curious, and at the very least I got to show a little bit of that sketching process at the beginning, so I'm pretty excited. You know, I'm still excited, I guess I should say, with how this is turning out and how the piece is going, and it was really nice because you can kind of tell that this process isn't as sped up as it normally is, and that's specifically because of that, what did I just say? Wait, freeze. This piece and this entire like video is not as sped up as it normally is, because doing those little sketch doodles and then laying out my colors beforehand sped up the process so much that I only had to double the speed of this video to get it to fit within like a 30-minute time frame. So that's pretty impressive, because while Procreate paintings do take me a lot less time than sketchbook spreads, that's for sure. Normally I would say I give it a good 2 hours or so, and so to basically have maybe 45 minutes to 50 minutes of content to break down, that definitely means the process was a lot smoother having done those little thumbnails. As always, inking is one of my favorite parts of every video, and this piece is absolutely no exception. I think that in the end, it ended up turning out just really nice. I love this new brush I'm using, the Kaczynski ink. As I previously mentioned, my next Procreate video is going to be about breaking down my brushes, so if you guys have any questions regarding that, please, please, please let me know in the comments down below, because that just gives me more shit to talk about and leaves you guys with a more, I guess, like, concise video, because sometimes I do feel like I end up rambling, and I don't want that to happen. But yeah, currently in the video, you're just seeing me sort of clean up my line work, making sure that I get everything to look and be the way that I want it to, making sure that it's a little bit more neat and tidy. You know, I'm not saying that my art is the tidiest or I guess the cleanest art ever, but I'm just kind of looking for all those little details that I can add to make it feel like a finished piece before I go ahead and call it quits. I've been really enjoying lately messing around with the pupils of the creatures that I'm doodling, and I wanted to do the same thing here with this piece, so I ended up splitting this poor ram's pupil into like 4 different like larger or smaller pupils, and yeah, I actually really liked the way that it looked. I thought that it was kind of interesting, and it gave the entire piece just sort of like a very fun feel. I like when everything kind of looks normal and then it gets a little bit uncanny or a little bit strange, and that's kind of what I feel like this piece did with like these 2 rams just kind of standing in frame, and then the more you look at it, the slightly weirder it gets. You'll also see that I'm adding a little bit more contrast to the background. I felt like the colors were blending into each other, and that is not what I wanted to happen. So I wanted them to stand out a little bit more, and I'm kind of taking a step back, assessing, and really just trying to see if there are any small details I need to add to make sure that this piece is the best version that it can possibly be. I did end up having a lot of fun sort of adding details to the eye that specifically is being poked. I really wanted it to look like it was like protruding and being smushed, and I feel like I did end up being able to give that effect and sort of give a slightly like uncomfortable effect to the eye. Like he's very, this ram is very unsettled by what's going on for sure, and the other poor little ram has his horn broken off, but it's for his own good, because if it wasn't, it would be poking him in the eye just like the other one. So yeah, there wasn't really like a story or anything. A lot of it was just like aesthetically, I just wanted to see what I could do with this idea of the ram's horn poking it. And I definitely felt like I built on it, and I didn't just kind of create something one-noted, and that is always really nice and a nice feeling that you feel like you set out what you wanted to accomplish. I wouldn't say that this is the most intricate piece I've ever made, but that's okay. I've been doing so much with like backgrounds and a lot more larger than life it feels paintings, that it was kind of nice to get a little bit more up close and personal with the subject. This is a lot more like what I'm used to drawing and what I used to do kind of solely, so it was a nice return to form, and it came just so easy, and I feel like a lot of that had to do with that process that I broke down, hopefully in a way that you guys understand. So with that, I'm probably going to go ahead and leave you guys to see my last final tweaks, and yeah. While I was making my final edits, I realized that I didn't really touch a whole lot on the color brown, which was something I had meant to bring up a little bit in the video, but I decided I'd go ahead and touch on it for like a minute or two here. I just love brown personally. I feel like it's underrated, and a nice cool toned brown is just so beautiful. I love it in my makeup, I love it in my clothes, I love it in my everyday life, and I adore it in illustrations. And so yeah, I just kind of wanted to make these sheepy guys like a dull, muted, like gray brown color, and I really wanted that to play well with these kind of vibrant, almost like jarring blues and greens, and I feel like I did a pretty good job at going ahead and making this brown color work. And I hope that you guys kind of see how lovely brown can be, because sometimes I feel like it gets shit on because it's brown and it's the color of literal shit, when it is actually a beautiful color and can be used in so many different ways. Returning to the video though, these are the last few moments. I wanted to show off the final piece and just take a second to thank all of you guys. There are 1,200 of you, more than 1,200 of you, 1,250 of you, which is insane, and counting. Obviously it goes up bit by bit, and I just really appreciate you guys, and especially those followers or subscribers, I guess I could say, that interact with my content and have like supportive things to say about every video. It goes a long way, and it's really awesome. So if you don't know what to comment ever, feel free to comment algorithm, because you don't have to say something super profound. You can just go ahead and support the video by just giving it a little algorithm boost. And with that, hopefully you guys liked this video enough to stick around and watch another, and I'll get to talk to you in the next one. Bye!